Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're running an independent practice or managing a clinic, I'm sure you already know the intense frustration of delivering incredible, compassionate care all day long, only to look at your Google profile and see younger corporate clinics totally outperforming you. Well, today we're going to fix that. We're going to discover exactly why your absolute best veterinary clients aren't leaving reviews and how a really simple 30-second fix can transform not just your digital presence, but your staff morale too. We're basing all of this on evidence-based strategies from hundreds of independent clinics. Here is our playbook for today. First, the silent 99%. Second, the 30-second human unlock. Third, scripts for every clinic moment. Fourth, rolling it out painlessly. And finally, number 5, the morale multiplier. Let's jump in.
All right, part 1, the silent 99%.
So the core problem facing independent clinics is this massive, glaring imbalance. Literally 99% of your happy clients leave without a trace, while the 1% who are unhappy almost always post a review, entirely unprompted. I mean, picture a busy Tuesday at your clinic. 6 consults go perfectly, but maybe one runs, say, 25 minutes late. That one person waiting? Oh, they're already drafting their furious review right there in the waiting room. But the 6 delighted clients? They're simply moving on with their day. You really have to think about the opposing mindsets here. For an angry client, typing a review is totally effortless. It's what we call frictionless dissatisfaction. Their frustration actively motivates them to pull out their phone and start typing. But for your thrilled clients, they're already rushing to their next errand, maybe doing the school pickup or rushing back to work. For them, leaving a review feels like friction-heavy work. They have to actively manufacture the motivation to open up Google and write something coherent. So this brings up a really crucial question. We have to figure out exactly why that grateful client, the one who just literally hugged your nurse because their senior Labrador's blood test came back clean, doesn't even think to leave a 5-star rating. I'll tell you right now, it isn't ingratitude, and it isn't laziness. The reality is structural. Their default state of attention is simply moving on. Beyond that, they genuinely don't know that reviews impact your local ranking. People tend to think of reviews for things like restaurants or Amazon purchases, not their trusted family vet. But the biggest reason of all, quite simply, nobody at the clinic actually gave them a warm, well-timed prompt to do it.
Which brings us to part 2, the 30-second human unlock.
Now, a lot of clinics assume the automated review software they just bought is going to be this magic bullet. But honestly, the software only handles the text message that lands after the visit. The true unlock? It's entirely human. A brief, warm, highly specific human interaction at checkout, right before that automated text goes out, will actually triple your response rate. When a kind receptionist just briefly mentions the review, it completely changes how that client perceives the automated text they get an hour later. It's no longer spam. It's a favor for a friend. But to capture that review, you've got to align 5 specific conditions. It's kind of like a combination lock. It starts with identifying the right person, someone actually celebrating a positive outcome. Obviously not someone processing a chronic diagnosis. Then you need to reach them at the right moment, ideally a few hours later while that warmth is still there. The message has to arrive via the right channel, tailored to them, sounding exactly like your clinic's authentic right voice. And finally, the right friction, meaning a super simple one-tap screen. Hit those 5 conditions together, and you seamlessly convert that warm feeling into a lasting public review. Okay, part 3, scripts for every clinic moment. Let's get incredibly practical here and look at the actual language independent clinics use to break out of that stiff corporate mold. First up is the payment moment script. This is designed for when the client is settling their bill and transitioning back into their ordinary day. You definitely don't want this to feel like some final, desperate upsell. It needs to be brief, helpful, and above all, warm. It goes like this. All settled. You'll get a quick text from us this afternoon if Buster's visit was a good one. A quick review really helps small practices like ours. No pressure either way. Notice that precise wording at the end? By literally saying no pressure either way, you completely disarm that awkward transactional feeling. You're framing the request as a personal favor to a local independent business rather than, just another corporate survey requirement. Next, we have what's called the compliment pivot. This is perfectly timed for when a client says something out loud like, "You're so good with him," or "Thank you so much for squeezing us in today." Honestly, this is a golden opportunity that most front desks completely miss. You just pivot by saying, "That means a lot, thank you. If you've got a minute later, would you mind sharing that in a Google review? People searching for a vet read those, and a few sentences from someone like you really helps." By utilizing this pivot, you're capturing their gratitude at its absolute peak. You acknowledge their happiness, and you smoothly redirect it to help other families in your community who are desperately searching for a vet they can actually trust.
Moving right along to part 4, rolling it out painlessly.
Look, you absolutely do not want to overwhelm your front desk team with a massive new protocol. If they feel overwhelmed, they're just not going to do it. Simple as that. Instead, pace it week by week. Start with just 3 core scripts, like that payment moment or the compliment pivot we just talked about. Role play them out loud in brief 15-minute morning huddles. Let them get comfortable. Once your receptionists feel completely natural saying the words, then you layer in the matching automated SMS messages, so the front desk and the software are perfectly reinforcing each other. And finally, Part 5, the morale multiplier. Let's look at the actual impact of this, beyond just a vanity Google ranking. Take this real-world case. A 30-year-old suburban practice, highly trusted in their community, but they were stuck at just 153 reviews. They were visibly getting beaten on Google Maps by these younger, flashier clinics that had just opened up. Well, within just 60 days of implementing this exact human-first system, they generated 223 new public positive reviews. Not over years, in 2 months. That massive influx shifted their overall rating from a 4.6 to an incredibly strong 4.9 stars. And here's the crazy part. This huge surge in glowing recent reviews triggered Google's recency algorithm, skyrocketing them straight to the #1 spot in their local pack. The real-world result of that? A 64% increase in new call volume compared to the previous 60 days. The community's 30 years of deep trust finally had a digital footprint that matched reality. But it doesn't just amplify the good stuff, it actually protects you from the bad. Over that exact same 2-month window, this system privately caught 17 negative reviews. Because the initial text filters for intent, unhappy clients were routed to a private resolution flow instead of a public form. This allowed the practice manager to step in, call them, and resolve the issues before a single one of those 17 complaints ever hit Google. That is huge for brand protection. But perhaps most importantly, and honestly, this is the part clinic owners talk to us about way more than the revenue, 87% of clinics report better team mental health after running this playbook for just 3 months. It fundamentally changes the emotional environment of the workplace. Think about it. Instead of starting the morning huddle bracing for an angry email or some unfair 1-star review, your receptionists come into a literal feed of clients praising their patience, their kindness, and the clinical skill of your vets. The silent 99% suddenly becomes visible. It completely transforms the emotional climate of the clinic from a complaint landing zone into an environment filled with daily gratitude. The trust, the compassionate care, the absolute clinical excellence, it's all already there in your practice every single day. We know that. So the only question left to ask yourself is whether you're ready to make a simple 30-second shift at your front desk to let the world and your own hardworking team finally see it.